I was able to receive 3 offers in the ICU as a new grad, plus 1 L&D offer. But being all extra picky before you get a job is actually crazy work. I've seen people do it and I've seen them end up unemployed. There's a nursing shortage everywhere, but not for new grads. We're not the nursing shortage. And that's another thing. If people are telling you, oh, they hire anybody with the pulse, it's not going to be hard to find a job as a nurse, you're going to get a job. Like, for one, I will say you will get a job. I am claiming it for you. Is it going to be a good job? Maybe. I knew one thing for sure, one thing for certain, I was not starting in med-surg. And if I did start in med-surg, it was going to be my choice and not because that's all I could get. Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. If you don't know me, my name is Denasia, but you can call me Nay, and that is no E. So today's video is going to be, drumroll please, how to land your dream nursing job. So in this video, I'm going to be giving y'all all of my tips, tricks on how I was able to receive 3 offers in the ICU as a new grad, plus 1 L&D offer, all before I had even graduated nursing school. So I have a lot to say. I do just want to say that I'm going to be giving y'all as much information as I can in this video, but at the same time, if I had to tell y'all everything I did and everything I had to say, we will be here for hours on top of hours. So I do have a ebook. I'll put it on the screen somewhere for my new grads. It's called New Grad, but really nursing students need to be getting this. If you're even like a year out from graduation, you need to be getting this, because the stuff that I did to ensure that I landed my positions in the ICU, I started early, baby. Like, I was premeditating this, because one thing about me, I knew one thing for sure, one thing for certain, I was not starting in med-surg. And if I did start in med-surg, it was going to be my choice and not because that's all I could get. As a new grad, you're going to come across people telling you, oh yeah, you have to start in med-surg. You're going to have instructors, peers, a bunch of people in nursing school telling you, yeah, as a new grad, you have to start in med-surg and then try to transfer to an ICU, transfer to L&D, transfer to mother baby, transfer to ER. If that's what you want to do, go for it. I think that there's benefits and disadvantages to everything in nursing. But if you're like me, you're trying to get in it, I'm going to tell y'all exactly how. So, as always, if you're new to my channel or you're just new to me, this is your introduction to me. Hey girl, hey. But also, I always do my makeup in every video that I make. Specifically the ones that are like, what's it called? I always do my makeup in all of my videos that are sit down, because it helps me be able to focus. And I also feel like it's more interesting for y'all to not just like hear me and me just be sitting here talking to y'all, but also to you so that you can watch me do something. So yeah, let's do it. My name is Denasia. Like I told y'all, I am 19 years old. And actually, let me reintroduce myself. My name is Denasia Mosley, BSN RN. I am 19 years old, and I will be starting as a new grad registered nurse in the pediatric ICU. In my position, I will be also cross-training in the pediatric ER, pediatric CV-ICU, and NICU. And I secured this job before I even graduated from nursing school. I got my job in May, I believe. It actually might have been April, and I graduated in August. So that was what, May, June, July, August. 4 months before I graduated is when I actually received the offer. So that means I applied even before that. So I'm just going to say that leads me to my first tip. My first tip is that I know you may not know what kind of nurse you want to be coming right out of the gate, because, like, first of all, even if you do know what kind of nurse you're going to be, it's probably going to change, because life change. You might experience some clinicals and be like, oh, actually, that was not what I thought it was going to be, or I didn't like that. And you might have some clinicals where you'll be like, oh, like, I thought I was going to hate this rotation, and I loved it. So, but for the most part, people tend to know going into nursing school what general direction that they want to go in. So, for example, me, I always knew I wanted to do critical care. So, I knew I was either going to be doing ICU, ER, or ER. I actually thought I was going to end up wanting to do ER, and I ended up not liking it. So, moving on to ICU, loved ICU. But try to tailor your nursing school experience to the general direction that you want to go in. If you don't know, you can never go wrong with ICU. ICU looks good everywhere, and so does ER. So, for example, what I'm saying in this way is like, if you tailor all of your volunteer experience, all your work experience to wanting to go into the ICU, and you happen to have a labor and delivery clinical, you love it, you decide, okay, I want to be a labor and delivery nurse. ICU translates very easily into every specialty, because in the ICU, you're going to learn time management, working well under pressure, dealing with very critical patients. Like, you can transfer those skills to any specialty in the hospital. So, with that being said, let's get to our first. If y'all see me kind of looking to the side, my mirror is over here, and so is my little guide that I use to see. So, we're going to start with resume. Your resume is so important. The resume is only a small part of getting a job, or getting especially a job in a new grad nurse residency. Because if you guys, okay, depending on where you live, the city, state that you live in, they may or may not do new grad nurse residencies. And if they do them, they may or may not be a requirement. And where I live in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, every hospital, like every major hospital system, is going to require new grads to do a nurse residency, regardless of what specialty you go into. So they may vary in length based on the specialty, but even if you're med-surg, here in DFW, you're going to be required to do a nurse residency. And on top of that, nurse residencies are so freaking competitive where I am, and I know they're competitive in a lot of other major cities as well. Like, I've heard of new grads going 6 months to a year without finding a job, and I truly feel so much for them, because that was my biggest fear, and that's honestly why I was almost over prepared for the job search, because I was like, I cannot have spent the last 15 months getting this degree and I don't have a job, or worse, I have a job that I hate. Like, I could not do it, and I was not willing to do it, and I was going to by any means possible, make sure that I got the job that I wanted. And yeah. So, the resume, like I said, is not the most important part of your job search process at all, like not even in the slightest. But it is very important, because it won't matter how good you interview if you can't even get to the interview. So your resume is what's going to get you in the room where it happens. For example, one of the jobs that I interviewed for, there was 400 people that applied to the nurse residency program at that particular hospital. So that's 400 people. And based on our essays, resumes, and our just application as a whole, so all that is what narrowed it down from 400 to 100. So I would say the resume is pretty important. And the challenging part about resumes the challenging part about a resume as a new grad nurse is that everyone pretty much is going to have the same, if not similar, like, experience. Because we all have the same degree. Most of the nursing residency programs in the Dallas-Fort Worth area where I live do require a bachelor's degree. So we all are or are going to be BSN prepared nurses. And for the most part, everyone has either no experience, which is not the end of the world. I'll tell you that now. Either has no experience, healthcare related, CNA experience, or nurse extern experience. So here's a few things that I did on my resume that I think really helped me stand out as well as land my dream job. So we're going to start off with absolute nots. There are going to be some things that are immediately going to kick you out. If your resume does not look appealing to the eye, it looks unprofessional or anything like that, that is a easy way to get your resume immediately discarded, immediately kicked to the curb, okay? You need to be having a professional looking resume. I'm not saying you have to do like just the regular text, but you don't want to have no headshot. You don't want to have like no old time font or no crazy fonts. You want to keep it to Arial, Times New Roman, like all the normal fonts that we use in any respectable academic setting. Make sure it's readable. Make sure that the font is big enough to read. I would say do not go, depending on how much experience you have, I would go up to a size 13 font and as little as a size 11, because you want people to be able to read your resume. But at the same time, I understand that when you're trying to fit stuff, it can be hard to fit it when you have a size 12 font all the way around. So if you have clinical experience, I'm going to tell you the things on your resume that are going to be most important to highlight if you have them. If you have related work experience, that is going to be the most important thing and what you should spend the most time on in your resume. When I say related work experience, I mean anything in healthcare and sometimes even things outside of healthcare, but you'll get what I mean by related work experience. If you have other work experience, you will still want to put that because you can show other skills through that, such as like being a hard worker, dedication, like teamwork, stuff like that. But I would not use majority of my resume on that. And on the same note, when you're doing that, you want to use action words as well as words that are in the job description. So this is where ChatGPT is going to be your friend, okay? I would always use AI to do this, and AI never failed me. So I did not use AI to generate my resume. I found a format on my own. But when it comes to the little bullet points where you describe what you did at your job, I would always make sure to tell ChatGPT, like, in 4 to 5 bullet points, describe my work experience as an ER nurse extern, because I was an ER nurse extern. I did this. So you put what you were allowed to do at your job. So for example, at my job as a ER nurse extern, I was allowed to insert Foleys. I was allowed to do lab work, insert IVs, regular patient care stuff like transporting, all that. At my particular job, I was not allowed to give medications. So, you know, depending on your job, so I know some nurse externships allow you to give medications. And then I'll put, okay, so what I did, and then tailor it to the job I'm applying to, which is I was applying as a pediatric ICU nurse. Put what I did in a way that shows action and uses buzzwords based on this job description. And I feel like they did a pretty good job. Like like when ChatGPT spit it out for me, I was like, oh, I did all this? Wait. But yeah, definitely do that. If you do not have work experience, or if your work experience is non-clinical related, so you don't want to use too much space on that, you can still put it, but I would not make it majority of your resume. The next and most important thing is going to be clinical experience. So I'm going to leave my resume on the screen for this entire time that I'm talking. If you want a resume template, I do have one in the ebook, as well as like additional tips for the resume that I just am not going to be able to say all here, as well as example like statements, questions, all that. So for example, you can put, I've had my clinical experience, I put the class, the hospitals, and the hours. If you don't have work experience, I had work experience, so I just put the class, the hospital, and the hours for all my clinical sites. You can even put, how I just told you, those 2 to 3 bullet points for each clinical site or each clinical rotation, what you did at that clinical and what you learned. The next thing is going to be certifications. So BLS, everyone in nursing school has BLS, so definitely make sure you can put that. I also put when I was expecting my, if you are already a nurse, like I said, I suggest people start applying to jobs early. Here in Texas, we have nurse residency programs, so they're going to say, like, if you graduate in August of 2025, apply in, I was applying, depending on the hospital, anywhere between April to June. Yeah, anywhere between April to June. But if you are in a place that does not require a nurse externship, or you just don't want to do one, or it doesn't have one, I would recommend you start applying to jobs at the very least 3 months before graduation. About 2 to 3 months before graduation, I think, is really that sweet spot. You're close enough to where they know you're going to graduate. Like, don't apply 2 semesters out. But really, in that last semester, I feel like you're safe to start applying, and I recommend that you do that. But I got sidetracked. Back to the certifications. BLS. Some additional certifications that are not required that I got to, you know, kind of boost up my resume, and I don't even think I ended up being able to fit all of them on there. I got the OSHA 10-hour medical certification. I got Stop the Bleed. I got the trauma informed care from the family department in my city. So trauma informed care. And also make sure they kind of are relevant to your jobs. Like, trauma-informed care is very important in pediatrics because, especially the pediatric ICU, something a lot of people don't think about is most kids in the pediatric ICU or kids in the hospital, in specifically in the ICU, there is a lot of abuse or family violence things that you're gonna come across in peds, and trauma-informed care is really important. And that's actually something that in both of my pediatric interviews that was brought up, not my certification, they brought up a question about how would you handle, you know, a situation that was pretty traumatizing. I don't want to get too much into it, but I was able to, you know, go back to that. I've actually already been certified in trauma-informed care and then put the certifying board. Are these lines like killing the vibe? I think they are. Hold on. So yeah. Additional certifications one certification that's free is Stop the Bleed. So you can get Stop the Bleed. Anybody can get this certification. It basically just talks about how to stop what it says. Stop bleeding in emergency situations. Some ones that are more expensive. So I did not get these certifications. I do want to make that clear because, you know, I don't think that they're necessary. I actually would not even recommend paying to get these because some of them are $500 to $1,000, like a lot of money. And your hospital will pay for you to get them once you're hired. I would only recommend getting these if it's necessary. So if you find that you're having trouble getting a job or having trouble even getting interviews, that's when I would have kind of been like, okay, let me invest in these certifications to try to make myself stand out more, because hospitals are a business. So I don't think it's like something that's going to be make or break, but if you're already having trouble getting jobs, that may be something like a hospital may be like, okay, well, at least we don't got to pay this much money for her to get this certification. The next thing is GPA. So a lot of people always ask, should I include my GPA? Should I not? I'm going to go ahead and say, depending on how competitive your nurse residencies or new grad jobs are in your area, it's going to depend. I can only tell you for competitive areas because that's the only place I have experience in. So that's anywhere, any big city pretty much where there's not a nursing shortage. So well, there's a nursing shortage everywhere, but not for new grads. We're not the nursing shortage. And that's another thing. If people are telling you, oh, they hire anybody with the pulse, it's not going to be hard to find a job as a nurse. You're going to get a job. Like, for one, I will say you will get a job. I am claiming it for you. Is it going to be a good job? Maybe. Okay, because there's a shortage for nurses. There is not a shortage for new grad nurses. It takes, especially if you want to be in a specialty, 4 to 6 months for you to even be on your own, and it's going to take upwards of a year for the hospital to even be able to turn over a profit on you, because it takes so much money to train a new grad. And especially if you go to a hospital that is a good hospital and genuinely cares about their patients, cares about their nurses, and is not just going to throw you to the wolves, you're expensive, baby. Like, so don't let people get that in your head. You're going to have to fight for those jobs. But like I was saying, in Dallas, most of the new grad residencies required a 3.0 GPA to even apply. A 3.0 GPA is about the average. I would not include my GPA on my resume if it was lower than a 3.5. I would say 3.5 and up, put it. Why not? 3.5 and up is like, I feel like anywhere from like a 3.0 to a 4.0 is the same thing. She did good enough in school. Like, job wise, it's not much of a difference between how it's going to translate to you being a good nurse. Now, it might be different between somebody that barely passed nursing school and had a 2.0 versus a 4.0. Okay, in that scenario, I think it might be a little bit more of a conversation. But like I said, new grad residencies in most competitive cities are going to have a cutoff of about a 3.0 anyway. Whether you want to put it or not is really up to you. I actually don't think I put my GPA. I don't think I put my GPA because I think my GPA around the time I applied for residencies, like I told y'all, I started applying really early. I think my GPA was maybe around a 3.6. So I just didn't put it. I didn't think it was necessary. Like, the HR people have my transcripts because you have to submit your transcripts. So like, y'all know. Y'all see, it wasn't necessary to be on the resume. I didn't want to create a conversation around my GPA if I didn't have to, unless I had a crazy high GPA, like a 4.0. I wouldn't even put it if it was a 3.9. But you can put it if it's a 3.5 or up. Next thing is going to be leadership roles. So I held 2 leadership roles during my time in nursing school. For the Black Student Nurses Association at my school, I was the vice president. So I put that. And also for the Society of Black Students in Healthcare, which is an organization that I started my junior year of high school, I was the founder and president of that. So I put both of those. And I think that's really all there is to say about resumes. In this topic, we're going to go ahead and include cover letters. So, do cover letters actually do anything? Debatable. Debatable. Do I think it will ever hurt you? No. So why not do it? That was my thought process behind the cover letters. I'm like, do they actually do something? I don't know. But is it going to hurt me? Absolutely not. So why not, if it does do something, give yourself that extra chance. With that being said, I recommend you all to do this, and I did this. I applied to every nurse residency in my area until I got a job. So once you get a job, you can stop. But being all extra picky before you get a job is actually crazy work. I've seen people do it, and I've seen them end up unemployed. Okay, some people, like, there's a particular hospital system in the United States that every nursing student will ever knows not to work at. If you ever had clinicals there, you know. I worked there while I was in school. HCA. But I still applied there. I did not want to work at that hospital at all, but I still applied there for my nurse residency because I'm going to tell you right now, having a job is better than being unemployed. Because at the very least, if you are able to stay in that job for 6 months to a year, you'll have experience. You can try to get out of there, go to a better hospital system, or go to a better unit. if you end up without a job, you're going to just kind of be in the same situation over and over again, because there's not going to be much you can do to change it at that point. You already graduated, and on top of it, now they're going to be looking like, okay, when applications for nurse residencies come back around in 3 to 4 months, they're going to be like, why didn't you get a job like when you graduated, when your cohort was supposed to be getting a job? Like, what's going on there? So, in my opinion, I say apply everywhere. But when it comes to cover letters, I did cover letters for every job that I actually cared about getting. So like I said about like some of the hospitals that I just applied to because I applied everywhere, I didn't do cover letters for them. Like, I wasn't doing a cover letter for that hospital because y'all need me more than I need y'all. Like, it's very few hospitals that you're going to be able to say that about, but that hospital, oh please, y'all needed me more than I needed y'all. So for that hospital, I definitely did not do a cover letter. But for all the good hospitals that I applied to that I really wanted to, I really wanted to work there. Like, I was like, yes, I want to work here. Like, please hire me. I definitely did a cover letter. I'm not really going to touch too much on cover letters in this video because it's just a lot. But in my ebook, I talk specifically about how to format a cover letter, as well as give y'all like an example cover letter. It's a little format I use. I think it worked well. In my actual interview, in 2 of the interviews that I got out of the 4 that I ended up doing, I got comments on my cover letter. So, hey, I'm not saying I got the sauce, but I'm saying I got the sauce. Okay, now we're going to go ahead and move on to interview prep. So, I'm just going to go ahead and be the one to tell you this is the most important part of getting your nurse residency job, especially as a new grad. You need to ace that interview, and I'm here to help you do it. In the ebook, I go over in depth about the interview. I'm going to give y'all an overview to get y'all. I'm going to do my best in the time that we have left. How many minutes we're in? Yeah, we're almost like 20-something minutes in. I'm going to do my best. I really am. Okay? For starters, in your interview, I'm going to just get all the basic information out the way so y'all can't say I didn't say it. Be early. I also say be on time. Be early. Okay? If the interview is somewhere that you are not used to being, I did a trial run the day before. You may not have time to do that. It's not necessary. But for me, I had a lot of anxiety coming up to interviews for the hospitals I was really like wanted to work at. So it eased my anxiety that I would already know where to go. Like, I found the parking, found the particular building I wanted to be in, found the exact place that the interview was supposed to take place, so that when I went the next day for my interview, all that was out of hand. I already knew where to park. I already knew how much time I needed to be there. I knew, how to get there. I left all that out of the way, so that on the actual day of the interview, I could just focus on performing my best and putting my best foot forward in the interview. As far as what to wear, it really don't matter. I personally didn't wear scrubs, and I've heard mixed things about scrubs. I wouldn't wear scrubs, and I didn't wear scrubs to any of my interviews, but I'll put a picture of the outfit that I wore to majority of my interviews. And I thought it was fine. I didn't get any complaints. I got all the jobs, so I wore that. I will say, I did not wear heels to all my interviews. How I told you, I did that trial run the day before. If there's a lot of walking to get there, or if you have a tour before or after the interview, some places will give you a tour of the unit before or after the interview. Don't put them heels on. Put on some flats. Like, seriously. So, for interviews, we're going to break this down into 2 parts. We're going to start with the behavioral-based questions, and then we'll go to clinical-based. Clinical is what a lot of people have anxiety about, but I promise you it's really not as complicated as you think it would be. So, starting with behavioral-based questions, if you don't know what that is, these are questions like that are trying to see how you behave. So they're going to be saying, tell me about a time where you had to be honest. Tell me about a time you made a mistake. Tell me about a time you got into a conflict with a coworker. Tell me about a time you had to work in a team. Tell me about a time, like, you know, just a bunch of tell me's. They want to hear how you have shown the different attributes that they're looking for in whoever they hire. So, for these questions, not even just for nursing, there is something called the STAR method. STAR stands for situation, task, action, and result. This is how they want you, how you're supposed to structure these behavioral-based questions. So, I always condensed it into SAR, situation, action, result, just because the task and the situation are kind of the same thing. And sometimes, especially when you're nervous, it can get repetitive. If you keep it just situation, action, result, it's very simple. What happened, what you did, how it ended. And how it ended is most times a substitution for what did you learn. Especially in questions that are like, tell me about a time, especially like in negative questions, tell me about a time you made a mistake. First of all, I'll get more to that later. But I'm going to talk about that question because that is the question that I have heard about being the most awful. Because that's really just trying to get you. Don't actually go in there and tell them nothing crazy. But yeah. I'm going to walk you through 2 questions. And the rest of my answers, advice for the interview, I'll save it for the ebook because there's so many questions that you will probably be asked, especially if you're interviewing multiple places, that I can't really get too much into right now. But let's go. So for one, tell me about yourself. I don't know why this question freaks everybody out. I think it's because it's so open-ended, and then also like it's like, what do y'all want to know? Like you're looking at a whole resume sheet of paper that tells you about me. That's everything you need to know. Bye. So I use a 3-part formula to structure my tell me about yourself question, and then I'll tell you how it sounds. So first part is your name and basic info. Name and basic info is essentially just your name, what school you go to, when you're graduating. Keep it simple. You don't have to do too much. Like it's very simple. Your name, when you're graduating, and what school you go to. Next part is gonna be related work history. So, for example, when I was applying, I talked about me working as a nurse extern and how that influenced me wanting to become a critical care nurse. And I'm gonna like give y'all my answer in the end so y'all can see like how this all sounds when you put it together. And then the last part is a kind of like fun fact, but it should be a healthcare associated fun fact. So for example, how I told y'all that I started a organization called the Society of Black Students in Healthcare my junior year of high school, and I was the founder and president of that. That was my fun fact. So I'm about to tell y'all how that sounds, but first let me try to like do this concealer so I don't have to keep starting and stopping. Okay, while I let that dry a little bit, let me give you my response. Always remember in the interview, you may be nervous on the inside. Keep it composed, shorty. I don't care what you got to do. If you got to take an anxiety pill before you go, if you got to, I don't know what you need to do, but you need to do something, keep it imposed. In the interview, you need to be likable. Likable people get hired. Don't be too likable, too bubbly, because some people are haters. But if they like you, they'll remember you. Read the room, of course. If they come in all like this, okay, maybe keep it on the straight and narrow. But if they're smiling, talking, making small talk, you also need to be smiling, talking, making small talk. When you go into the room, I make sure that and every interview I did, which I noticed is something that people were surprised about, even if they're already sitting down, and At my job, they were really sweet. Any nice interview is going to stand up and greet you. But some of them won't, and they're kind of rude. But you want something from them. So take it upon yourself to go. I shook everybody's hand in the room. In nurse residency interviews, there's usually going to be a panel interview. I've seen as small as 2 people to as large as 8 people. So I don't know. It could go either way. But I shook everyone's hand in that room, and I shook their hand, introduced myself. Hi, my name is Denasia. So glad to be here. Hi, my name is Denasia. I'm so glad you're able to be here. Hi, my name is Denasia. And give them a good handshake. I don't know about all that firm stuff that people be talking about. I'm not squeezing nobody's hand like that. But a good little, hi, my name is Denasia. So happy to be here. And I repeated it to everybody. The name is in the head. Y'all know me, the queen, Denasia. And my name is kind of harder to pronounce, and it's so awkward. They're like, is it? It's really not hard to pronounce, but you know how people get. So I'll be like, yeah, Denasia. They're hearing it a bunch of times. Here's a tip. Hey, I'm giving y'all the sauce, and I don't like this, but hey, let me give y'all a little sauce. In the interview, when you would say, hey, my name is Denasia, they're going to introduce themselves back. You cannot remember all them names, or at least I can't. Like I just told y'all, I tell y'all all the time, I have a memory of a goldfish. Pick one person. I usually pick the most smiley person, or if I know the person that's actually doing the interview, actually is going to talk. Choose one person. I usually pick the person that seems the most nice, and I remember their name. I keep it back in the mind. So, for example, they say, hi, my name is Denasia. They're like, hi, my name's Cheryl. And sometime during the interview, make sure that you say their name back to them. So, if they ask you a question, oh, that was a great question, Cheryl. So, say it. In one of my interviews, there was a doctor. He told me his name. I'm like, yeah, that was a great question, Dr. So-and-so. So, and then go into your answer. Sauce. And they always look so surprised when I say the name, because it's like, oh, she's listening. She's in tune. And I'm telling you, you're not, as much as you might think you're that girl, you're not that girl. And you are that girl, but nobody's that different, okay? We're all pretty similar, so you need to do every little thing you can think of to give yourself the edge up against the competition. I want all of us to get a job, but I gotta make sure I get a job first and foremost. Oh, I didn't even give y'all my response. Okay, so for the tell me about yourself question, I always go, hi, my name is Denasia. Don't actually do that. That's a YouTube thing that I do. Hi, my name is Denasia. I am a soon-to-be BSing graduate from the University of Texas at Arlington. Go Mavs. I graduated in August of 2025. Throughout nursing school, I worked as a ER nurse extern, and that experience really solidified my passion for critical care. I loved being able to help patients during their most vulnerable times of their lives, but I also really loved the science aspect of critical care nursing, that there's always something to learn. There's so many disease processes and pathophysiology for me to really dive into. I feel like I'll never be able to stop learning as a critical care nurse, which that's something I look for in a career. Outside of nursing, my biggest passion is a organization that I started my junior year of high school called the Society of Black Students in Healthcare, where we kind of just give students in healthcare the resources, opportunities, and scholarships that they need to succeed. And yeah, that was my response. Oh, it's hot. Sorry, y'all, I'm hot. Let me open this up. But yeah. So that was my response for that. So the next question, there's so many questions I could have chose to highlight actually in the video. The one I'm choosing is the one that I feel like people mess up the most. I don't know why, but this question tears us up. And by us, I mean nursing students and new grads. So, this question is, tell me about a time you made a mistake. So, this question might be phrased different ways depending on which hospital you're interviewing at. Some other ways that they might phrase it is tell me about a time that you had to be honest. Tell me about a time, that you showed integrity, something like that. So no matter how this question is phrased, it's asking the same thing, which is what I just said. Show that you have integrity. Show that you are honest. Like, show those aspects of yourself. So do not, and I mean do not, tell them anything that has to do with patient safety. Don't tell them about no med errors. Don't tell them about no falls. Don't tell them none of that stuff. Don't tell them none of that stuff. New grads are already a liability, so they don't need to be thinking nothing additional about you. I can't really tell you what to use as your mistake. Mine, I told them about how my first day of clinical and foundations, I also use this to emphasize other good aspects about myself, like always wanting to help. I said, like, I am a person that's always looking to see, like, how I can be a help on the unit, how I can be help to the other staff, not just nurses, but anyone that was there. But as a first semester nursing student, rightfully so, I could not do much. So I was just kind of trying to answer call lights to see, like, small things that I can get patients to make the nurses and the tech's job easier, such as like water or blankets or stuff like that. And while I was doing that, I had a patient ask me for water. I didn't think anything of it, so I brought them the water. Unfortunately, the nurse came in shortly after to let and see me giving them the water and, inform me that the patient was NPO, as they were supposed to have surgery the following day. Luckily, and then result. As a result, I immediately took accountability for my mistake, and we were able to contact the surgeon. And fortunately, because the surgery was still the next day, and they only had a sip of water, the surgeon cleared it, said it was fine, to continue with the same surgery time. But that situation really emphasized to me the importance of always checking a client's chart or speaking to their particular nurse before you put in place any interventions, even small ones or non-pharmacological things such as getting a cup of water or something like that, to ensure patient safety every time. Yeah, that mistake is harmless. Like, giving a patient a sip of water, harmless. And it also shows that I was just trying to help. And by putting it, I wouldn't put nothing too recent, because you want to show, you spend less time on the mistake, more time on what you learned from it and what you're going to do to not make that mistake in the future. And also, by making a mistake that was literally so long ago, it shows, like, I'm not even the same person. It's whole new girl. Okay? So I've been kind of talking about my ebook this whole video. I also offer mock interviews. So if you would like a particular mock interview that is tailored to you, your specific goals, your specific specialty that you're looking to get into, definitely let me know. The link is down in the description box, RN Influence, and you can go there and book your mock interview today, because I just want to see all my girls. I want to see all my girls succeed. I want to see girls and guys. I want to see y'all get the jobs that y'all want and that y'all deserve. Okay. Now I'm going to tell you how you decide where to apply. So I already kind of touched on this earlier. I do think you should apply everywhere. But if you're like, I don't have the time, I don't have the energy, I'm not going to apply, I don't think you should do that, because you don't want to end up being picky and end up unemployed. But I also understand some people are like, I have some friends that were like, I'd rather be unemployed than work at that hospital. And I'm like, well, in that case, let me mind my business. No, but seriously, So I'm going to tell you how I kind of went about ranking my hospitals as well as knowing what to do. So before you even start applying to jobs, you need to decide what is important to you, because no job is going to be perfect. Every job is going to have its downsides. Like, it's still a job at the end of the day, and all these places are still a business. So you need to decide what is important to you. For example, some things that are important to you. Okay, specialty. If I decide, to me, like, I'd rather work at specialty as, like, for example, that hospital system I told y'all I didn't want to work at. Specialty was the most important thing to me. So I would have rather worked at a hospital I didn't want to work at in a specialty that I wanted to work at than work at my dream hospital in med-surg, if you get what I'm saying. But for some people, it might be different. They're like, I'd rather work at my dream hospital than in my dream specialty at a hospital I don't really care for that much. So it just depends on you as a person, but that is something to think about. Another thing is pay. I had some people that said, I don't care about specialty or hospital. I'm taking the highest paying job. And I'm not mad at it. But for me, that was not the case. And then another one is location. So some people are like, I really want to work close to home. I'm only applying to jobs that are 30 minutes away from my house or less. Or I'm only applying to jobs that are 20 minutes away from my house or less. For me, I think that the only two that should really matter to you are three. Specialty, hospital system, and pay. For me, I am speaking from a place of privilege to not have to have pay been a big factor for me, because like y'all know, I live at home. Like, I'm very young. I graduated school very young. I'm 19, so I don't have too many responsibilities. I don't got no kids. I don't got no bills for real. So it's like, I could have afforded. Thank God I didn't have to, because my job pays well. Thank God I didn't have to, but I could have afforded, if that's what I had to do, to take a job that paid a little bit less, because it would have been fine, you know? That's not the case for everybody. Also, I do think that I can't tell you what you should do, but a lot of people try to persuade new grad nurse residencies as a way for hospitals to lock you in to all new grads in on a set pay, which that is a factor of it. Like, I would be dense to say that pay is not a factor. But also, that is kind of a more old-timey view for nurse residencies to pay very low. The nurse residencies in my city do not pay significantly lower. Like, they all, if not most of them, start at a very competitive rate for our area. And I do think, like, some hospitals, I think it was, like, a little low. I think that they were lowballing. Like, some hospitals, they were, like, are paying 28 to someone with a bachelor's degree prepared nurse is crazy work. But again, that was a very good hospital, so they do it because they know people want to work there, and they know that they can. Unethical, in my opinion, but they know that they can, and they know people are going to accept that. Not me, but like, when I say pay was not that important, I would not have accepted 28. You're tripping, and I don't like that. You're tripping. So some additional tips that I have is attend any networking events for hospitals that you like really want to work at. So for example, one of the hospitals that I didn't end up applying to, but I was going to, they have a networking event like every couple of months for new grad nurses. And if you attended the event, you had a guaranteed interview. That is a dang good deal, because like I just told y'all, a lot of people don't even get to the interview. Like, for example, for that job that I told y'all started at 400 people, and then they used the resumes to narrow it down to 100 people. The interviews narrowed it down from 100 to 25. So if you're automatically included in that 100, that's tea. Like, that's a very good opportunity if you have it. Additionally, I will tell y'all about my job search process lastly, because I know a lot of people were kind of asking about it. So like I told y'all, I planned on applying to every job in my area. Because I was one of those people, I'd rather have a job than be unemployed. So it was really like clear cut for me. I'm applying everywhere. So I was going to apply to every job, but it so ended up happening that the first job that I applied to, because that's the nurse residency that opened first, is the job I ended up accepting. So I believe that I got my job offer to my job before I had even done, I think I had only submitted like 2 other applications. And then the 2 other applications that I submitted, I actually ended up withdrawing both of them, because at that point I didn't want to hold a spot for somebody who really wanted it. And both of the I had interviews for both of those jobs. I had them scheduled, and I ended up withdrawing my application and canceling my interview because I didn't want to take a spot from somebody who needed it. And I knew that because I had my list of jobs and like in order I wanted them, I knew that the job that I had got offered initially and I ended up accepting, I would rather have that job than either of the other 2 that I had already interviewed for. So from there, I was not applying everywhere, but I did plan on it. I only applied to 3 more hospitals. There were 3 hospitals that, because of my clinicals, I really liked those hospitals. No, 2 more hospitals. 2 more hospitals, and at both of those hospitals, I applied to L&D and ICU. Yeah, for both of those hospitals, I applied to L&D and ICU. I ended up getting interviews to... No! Okay, y'all, I'm tripping. I did apply to 3 hospitals. I only got interviews to 2 of those hospitals. One of the hospitals, they never even said nothing. They just ghosted me, which is like fine because I already had a job, but that's rude. I got interviews at 2 of those places. At one hospital, I got an interview for just ICU, so I applied to L&D and ICU at both, but I only got an interview for ICU. And at the other the other hospital, I got an interview for ICU and an interview for L&D. I interviewed at all 3 of those places, and I got offers to all 3 of those jobs. And my initial job that I interviewed, the first one was for the pediatric ICU, pediatric critical care. And like y'all know, I ended up accepting pediatric critical care, PICU nurse. Oh, this jacket is also from RN Influence. I'll get up and show y'all like once I finish with my makeup. But yeah, that's really how things ended up playing out for me. I did make a paid transparency video, but I will just go ahead and tell y'all how much I made, because I already just said it a lot of times on here, because I believe in paid transparency. So if you're in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, the offers that I received, the lowest offer I received was $34. And no, oh my gosh, no, it wasn't. The lowest offer I received was $30.28. I remember. $30.28 was the lowest offer I received in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, but this was at a really, really, really good hospital, so they knew they didn't have a problem getting people. And then the highest offer I received was the job I ended up accepting, which was $40.69. So that was like a $10 range. I would say 30 is still a good amount of money. I personally, because of, I had already told myself that I was not going to be accepting a job that was paying less than $34 an hour base pay. Because that was like my minimum threshold, I treated all jobs that were paying 37 and up, I mean, not 37, 34 and up the same. So I did not end up choosing my job because it was the highest paying. It just happened to be the highest paying. So something that was really important to me that I did mention earlier was work culture. Especially being a new grad starting out in the ICU, it was extremely important to me that I felt supported and I was in a good work culture. Oh wow, that's way too much. Wait, let's try to fix that. So, yeah. And that's kind of how I tell everybody else too, like, because I'm gonna need help, and I'm gonna need help for a very long time, and I need to be able to feel like, especially like in the pediatric, I feel like these are kids' lives. I need to feel like I am supported. I need to feel like I am learning. I need to feel like everyone on that unit, not everyone, but at least like majority of people are there to help me and are willing to help me. I don't want to feel like I'm being bullied. I don't want to feel like I'm being talked about. I don't want to feel like I'm being hazed. Like, I'm not going for that. I'm grown. And I know it sounds crazy to say, but like, the term nurses eat their young is very true. And I was not going to subject myself to that type of environment for a year, because that's how long nurse residencies are. It just was not going to happen. Like, no way, Jose. So that was really like my deciding factor in choosing my job, was the work culture. And also the fact that I'll be able to be trained in CVICU, ER, and NICU, as well as PICU. I thought that would look really good on applications if I did ever decide to go back to school. So, yeah, I think that's really like everything I have to say. Okay, guys, so I am done getting ready, and that brings us to the end of today's video. I hope that this video helped, and if you want more information or more help, RN influence, click on the blueprint, and we do have the new Grad Blueprint, which is our ebook, as well as mock interviews that you can schedule, or you can do both through our bundle. And yeah, I love you guys so much. If y'all have any tips for new grads trying to get jobs, especially in competitive specialties, comment them down below. If y'all have any questions that I did not talk about, did not answer, feel free to comment them down below. Y'all know I be in them comments. I'm talking about in it. So I'll definitely get back to y'all. And with that being said, I'm about to go to Bible study. I love you all dearly. Bye.